You're listening to Rod and Style Radio, the latest podcast brought to you by rodandstyle.com, which is where you can find links for merch, videos from our YouTube channel, along with stories and tech talk from some of the greatest folks in the culture. So grab the wheel, it's about to get wild. You've tuned in to Rod and Style. So how's it going in the shop today?
Really busy, man. It's busy every single day. You know, I'm fitting some skirts that I made on this 37 Plymouth, so trying to get them buttoned up. But I'm trying to design this mounting thing so it'll hold the top of the skirts in. So yeah, it's got to be functional and look good at the same time. You know.
Of course. Is that the one that you've been posting up pictures in the parking lot with?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely,
yeah, that was
beautiful car.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool car. The guy's from Washington. He wanted to build this car after my 35 Plymouth. So here it is at my shop. You know, we're made some skirts for it, did the Mustang 2, you know, rear suspension, all that stuff. It's a pretty nice car.
How did you end up getting into all of this, man? Like, where did you get your start in cars? Because, I mean, you must have come a long, long way to be doing what you're doing now.
It's been, definitely been a long journey. You know, like in the beginning when I was a kid, I don't know, I was just so obsessed with cars, man. Like I didn't have any influence in my family with cars, but it was just something that I was super into, you know. I remember like when I was younger with taking the Hot Wheels and, you know, taking the wheels off and shit and like breaking them and taking other toys apart to make other toys.
Right.
You know, some of them worked, but you know, the majority of them didn't. You know,
a lot of trial.
I mean, I even remember I was super into watches and radios and I wanted to know how they worked. So I would like take them apart, you know, they didn't go back together, but I certainly took them apart.
Man, my mom used to get on my brother's ass all the time because when he was, you know, in his late teens, 20s, he was into motorcycles and he'd always be taking his motorcycles apart and leaving, you know, putting it back together, and there'd be like a bucket of parts left over that didn't end up back on the bike. Yeah, she would always be giving him shit for it too.
It's so much easier to take shit apart than putting it back together.
Oh man,
I think I actually might enjoy taking shit apart more than putting it back together.
You know, that's how I got my start in pulling apart airplane engines, man. When they put me in where I'm at working now, I started off in disassembly, you know, and that's really how you learn what all the parts are. And as they come off, you know, you sit there and learn which, you know, where they go and what they do, and then, you know, putting it all back together kind of seems easier after that.
Yeah, but you're messing with airplanes. That's a different level, dude. That's not a motorcycle. That's something that flies in the air.
Yeah, it took me a little while to get to this point.
Yeah. I don't think I would be competent enough to be messing around with airplanes. You know, it's too sketchy, dude.
You know what? When I went to school for it, I got extremely scared to ever fly ever again because I looked around the classroom of all the people I was in school with, and I was like, "You're gonna work on this stuff? I'm not gonna fly on whatever you work on." But you know, I started in a class of 40 people, and I graduated with 11. So, you know, not everybody makes that cut.
Yeah, imagine breaking down in the air. You're not calling AAA. You're fucking gonna die.
Yeah, there's no pulling over on a cloud. There's no cloud heavy enough.
Yeah, you're fucking done, dude. I'm gonna take my risk with 4 wheels, dude. But right on for you, man. That's rad. But yeah, I'm not a flyer, dude. Low and slow for me.
Absolutely.
Damn right. That's where it goes.
Yeah. But, you know, growing up and stuff, you know, like I said, there wasn't much influence in that from family and stuff. It was just something I had in me. You know, I think a lot of back then too, like a lot of the music that was playing on the radio and all that had a lot of cars in it. Maybe that was inspiring a little bit, but where we lived too, there was a lot of lowriders. I used to watch those, going up and around the block and stuff, and using the hydraulics. And I don't know, I just really, really loved that stuff. As I got older, I started building model cars and stuff, and it was my version of building model cars. The directions went out the fucking window, and pretty much glued the tires to the bottom of the car to make it sit as low as possible. I used to do that to a lot of those things. I even went as far as taking. I remember those old toys where you would have like this little pump and it was a frog, and you'd pump it and the frog would jump.
Yes.
Do you remember those?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I would disassemble those things and I would hot glue the fucking model car axle to those things so that it looked like it had hydraulics.
Oh, wow.
Dude,
You had the eye for it already.
I was like 10, 11 years old. This shit worked too.
Where did you grow up, man?
I grew up in San Mateo, California, in Shoreview. Grew up there, pretty much grew up in San Mateo, and then I moved over to the East Bay in Hayward, and that's where my shop is now. Yeah, most of my time was pretty much on the peninsula, San Francisco Bay Area.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been in business for 20 years. So it was 10 years on the peninsula, 10 years, on the East Bay, and it's just progression, having to get bigger shops and stuff like that,
Right. The fish starts outgrowing the pond.
Right. And the fish is trying to grow, but the pond isn't big enough right now.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think a lot of, I really started out in the lowrider culture originally. I was real deep into that stuff. I used to work for Street Law Magazine. I'm actually glad that I got to live the times I did. I used to hang out down Story and King in San Jose back in the 90s, which was really awesome to see. It's not like that anymore. Well, maybe today it is, but for a while it died down. But
with everything's kind of going in cycles lately. Like things are starting to become cool again.
Yeah, well, so for a while, I mean, going through all this stuff, over the last couple of decades or whatever, really going to lowrider stuff. The lowrider stuff was going real strong. And then I went to my first custom show and I absolutely fell in love with it. I was surprised that everybody was getting along with each other, because usually when you go to a lowrider show, there's, that kind of stuff happens. You know what I mean? Like someone's mad dogging somebody or whatever, it was just what it was, but I went to a first custom show. I was tripping out. Everybody was friends and everyone was getting along. I mean, it was pretty rad, and I didn't know anything about customs or welding or any of that stuff. It was kind of new to me because I was strictly lowrider culture. But, a friend of mine at the time had a 54 Chevy that was chopped and all that. And I don't know, the lifestyle and everything, I just fell in love with it, man. And I left the lowrider culture. I didn't necessarily leave 100%. I was still in both, but I was just leaning more towards the custom culture. And that's ultimately where my life completely changed, Started my shop when I was in my early 20s. Didn't know shit, didn't know how to weld, didn't know how to do anything, but I really, really loved doing it. And there was just something inside of me that just said it was so right, and I ran with it, and I never looked back.
That's wild, man. So how did you end up? Did you just put a welder in your hand and say, I'm going to learn this? I'm going to,
Well, a friend of mine was a welder at the time, and I was kind of leaning on him to kind of help me, but he had a very busy schedule, and I was just so amped up. I just wanted to cut shit up and do this thing, because it's exciting, man. I've never cut a car before. I've done a patch panel, but that's just a patch panel. I was cutting a roof off this thing, I was completely going to destroy this car. And he just didn't have any time to come over and help, so he left the welder there, and I just started picking the thing up, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, but the shit was sticking together, and it worked,
and that's where you start, man. That's absolutely where you got to get started with it.
Pretty much, I remember to this day the night that I finally got the welding down. My buddy tuned the welder for me, so I wasn't making a bunch of fucking bird shit all everywhere. He tuned it up and it was actually working properly. And I kind of got into the rhythm of doing it. And, I remember just having that feeling of like, this is really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Because prior to that, I was, real into skateboarding. I was sponsored and all that. I thought that was going to be my career, was skateboarding.
Really?
Yeah, but I broke my knee and that kind of ended it for me, So that was a big dream of mine to, be a pro skater, But, I think in life, things like that happen, like there was a direction that I was supposed to take. And I think the universe lined me up for all that,
Now, with that broken knee, it eventually healed. Do you try to skate anymore now or no?
Not now because I got too much on the plate, but I did skate. I did try afterwards a couple of years later, and it just never was the same. I couldn't get my confidence back,
Yeah.
It was really hard to, I was one of those guys that just went really big and I was super down to get wrecked, like super fast, super big. Yeah, I lost my confidence when I broke my knee.
I bet, man. That's insane. Was it on a big trick or was it not even skateboard related?
I wish I could tell you it was something super badass, but I was actually showing off for some chick.
Sorry, I did not mean to laugh that loud.
Yeah,
that's
Sam
for us.
Oh my God.
It's the honest truth. It's the honest truth. And I was going for like a really big indie nose bone off this hip in Oakland, and fucking wrecked myself.
Shit.
That's wild, man. Did you do a lot more vert or street skating?
No, I was kind of more street, but I really liked half pipe, not vert, but mini ramps and stuff, but mostly street skating.
That's what I'm more into. And then, I wanted to be a pro skater too. And I hit my 30s and that was it. I mean, it was just,
right.
I didn't even injure myself. I just like grew into injuries, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, things start hurting more, I remember getting back on it, and like falling would hurt a lot more. And man, I started skating again 8 years ago, and I thought I was way better than I actually was. My eye, that term where your eyes are bigger than your mouth. Well, yeah, I tried to do a tray flip out of this fucking bowl and landed on my ass, and that was kind of neat for me.
That was me the other day, man. I was at the park just trying to do a little, pop shove it or something, and landed the thing and surprised myself.
Went straight to the ground.
Dude, and it's like the dumbest shit that happens to, too. You're like, dude, I could do this crap blindfolded back in the days. Now you're like wrecking your ass trying to do it.
Right.
It's okay. That was like the first thing that happened the first time I ever took him to go skate at a park. It was like one of our first dates. I fucking face planted so bad. And I was like, I just don't want to get up. I'm just going to lay here for a little bit. I'm just going to not even look up.
Right.
Man, isn't that wild? Like this whole culture, I'm pretty sure about everybody I've ever run into either skated or BMX biked, or like we all did something kind of on the rebellious edge of things.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. A lot of people that I know that own businesses or that I grew up with were all skaters or some sort like that. I think it's the whole independence thing. Like, dude, I remember running from the cops. I remember dude, we used to mess with the security guards. It was just like
right,
living free. I mean, like rules didn't exist back then, or at least they didn't for me. But I think a lot of that, you're out on the street, you're skating with your buddies, you're making your own decisions. For us, our biggest worry was missing the bus,
Right, yeah. Man, my mom would yell when I would miss the bus. You ain't lying, man.
Well, I mean, I meant missing the bus because we were trying to get to a skate spot, I wasn't worried about getting to school or going home. I was going out skating, I dropped out of sophomore year.
Did you really?
Yeah, a friend of mine. I didn't care for school, dude. Like, this stuff didn't interest me. I was really, really good at art. I was really good at math, science, and not showing up to class. One of my friends had taught me how to ditch school, and that was kind of the end of it. I never went back. And I would just go down and hang out at the skate shop, and, you know, all the older guys were down there hanging out, and we would just go out and skate, you know, and I don't know, 16, 17 years old, maybe 17 years old, maybe 16, 15, somewhere in there. But yeah, we would just go down to the skate shop, hang out there and skate all week, all day. And, you know, like, school just wasn't fun. They weren't teaching me stuff that I was super interested in.
Oh, no, I agree, man. My senior year of high school, I was actually taking all of my junior classes during the day and senior classes at night, just trying to catch up so I could actually graduate. But yeah, like, I spent the first 3 years just completely fucking off, and I probably would have ended up dropping out at some point, but I had a mom that just would not let up.
Right. Well, yeah. See, and my mom was really cool. My mom allowed me to live out what I wanted in life. You know what I mean? She didn't like restrict me, like, oh, you got to sit down and do your homework. It was like, you know, she saw something in me. You know what I mean? Now, you know, me and my family aren't super, super close, you know, so I am a very independent person, but, honestly, man, like, nothing really was going to get in the way of what I wanted to do. And that's kind of how I am today, man. I really just don't care. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, you know, nothing's going to get in the way. At the time, you know, I really wanted to, you know, skateboarding was my dream. So I seeked it out. You know, I started going competitions. I started, you know, going out with all the older guys, and, you know, I had a really good time, and it was some of the best times of my life with skateboarding, you know.
Who were some of the ones that you looked up to when you were doing all of that?
You know, for me, it was a lot about style, and still today is a lot about style. You know, the way, like, people do the tricks, and, like, Drake Jones was one of the ones that I really loved back in the days. Mike Carroll, Jamie Thomas, Eric Costin was a big one for me.
Yeah,
really,
Costin,
really, really.
sure.
Oh man, his style is so sick. All his tricks, they just float. You know, like, almost like he's not even trying.
Yeah, no, big time Eric Costin. Of course, I loved, you know, still to this day, I love Rodney Mullins, Mike V.
Yeah, Mike V's badass. Yeah.
And then, of course, just because he's just a complete asshole and just wild, Andy Roy.
Right. Yeah.
Just,
I never. He's local out here. I've never run across him or anything, but yeah, he's definitely definitely what you're saying. You know?
Absolutely. So getting back into cars, because I know Chuck will love that I'd spent our entire episode talking about skateboarding.
Yeah.
He's like, you got Skoty Chops on there, and you go talk skateboarding the entire night.
I'm all right with that, though.
Yeah, no, so's Chuck, I'm sure. But
right on.
Getting back, you know, into your shop, like, what were some of the first cars that you started putting out and people started noticing?
Well, so my first car that I ever chopped and bagged was a 52 Chevy. I bought the car for a couple $100, you know, with the dream of chopping it and all that. Again, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. You know, I was looking for different ways to chop the roof. I bought that Tex Smith, you know, how to chop a top book, which pretty much didn't help me at all. You know, they left all the important information out, you know. So, you know, I had to source out other information, you know, and I happened to pick up, you know, the Old School Rods magazine at the time, and Voodoo Larry's 52 Chevy happened to be featured on the front of that magazine. Yeah. You know, so I kept going back to his chop. I really liked the chop that he did on it. And I ended up calling him, and he sat on the phone with me for like 3-4 hours explaining how to do it, where to cut and all that stuff. And, you know, he really helped a lot. You know, I kind of got it where I wanted it. And then, you know, came the rear of the car, and that's where it's like, shit.
Making the sail panels and all that.
Yeah, man, I was so lost, dude. Like, it took me days and days. I was running string lines. You know, mind you, I didn't know anything about it, dude. I knew nothing. Had a couple of friends that have chop tops come over and help me out with it and stuff. And eventually I got it, and I made it. It didn't make it out of 2 or 3 pieces. It was like 6 or 7 or 8 fucking pieces of metal welded. I didn't know what I was doing. It was all part of learning.
Of course.
Bending the shit over my knee, welding it up. It had a lot of Bondo on it, but that's all part of it. Live and learn.
Yeah, with each one, you learn how to use less Bondo.
Well, as anything that you start in the beginning, I don't care who you are. You could be the baddest musician, the baddest basketball player. It doesn't matter. You sucked at some point.
Exactly. That's absolutely right.
It's what it comes down to is like what you have in yourself. Do you want to be better, or is that okay? And some people are okay with just being where they're at. Me, I'm never okay with where I'm at. I'm always in competition with myself yesterday. Always trying to push the bar, always trying to push myself mentally, physically, and spiritually with all this stuff.
Of course, man. I mean, anybody who's running a successful business or a brand of any sort, like that should be the motto every day. Like be in competition, just like you said, with yourself.
Right.
Constantly pushing to do something better, something bigger. Not in competition with anybody else, because that doesn't matter. But you need to be better than you were the day before, or where's the progress? I like that. Exactly.
And I get if I'm not progressing, I get real stagnant. Like I have to be constantly pushing myself. Like I build a badass car for myself or for somebody else. Well, the next one I got to top that one. It's just climbing the ladder, like you hit one goal. Okay, cool. Where's the next one? Where are we going from here? I don't see other shops and stuff like that as competition. I actually, believe it or not, I actually try to help a lot of other shops out. I like seeing people succeed. We're all doing this because we love it. You know what I mean? I love what I do. I don't see myself doing anything else. And the next guy that's doing it down the street or whatever, he loves it just as much. You know what I mean? We're sharing something. We're both after a journey in life that we were passionate about. There's a lot of shops that I've helped get off their toes and motivated them, and they took it upon themselves to be successful, but I had some part in it, and I appreciate that stuff. I love motivating people. I love seeing people successful. It gives me energy,
Absolutely, man. A friend of mine from here in Texas, he came out there to your shop a few years ago. I believe you did a metal shaping class out of your shop. His name is Chris Bluntzer. I don't know if you remember him.
Chris is rad, dude. I like Chris, man. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Empire Hot Rods or Empire Custom.
Empire Garage there in Victoria, Texas. Yeah, they're good friends of mine, him and his whole family. He said he had a blast out there. So, in all aspects of this culture, it sounds like you're doing your part to not only grow yourself but grow the culture as well by doing things like that.
and help people seek out their dreams. Really at the end of the day, everything that's keeping us from being successful or living our dreams is the barriers that we put in front of ourselves. I've had to come to terms with that really a lot of this stuff is just mental. At the end of the day, anybody can do anything. You just need to seek it out. Get started. That's all it takes,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I was working at gas stations and auto parts stores when I was trying to go to school for doing aircraft mechanics, and there was a lot of times where I was like, man, this is way bigger than me. But you take it a piece at a time, and you figure it out, and you move on to the bigger stuff, and then go bigger from there. But you like you said earlier, you just have to want to keep progressing and keep going to that bigger thing, and not be okay with where you're sitting, but want to have that that passion to move forward in you. So that's
for sure. I mean, life's too boring or life's too short to live a boring life.
Or to drive a boring car.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Like, life. as you live life and as I've gotten older and all, I start seeing things differently. When I was younger, it was about being loud and like punk rock and not giving a fuck and all that. Man, it's so different nowadays. Now I'm really honing in. I really want to hone in on my craftsmanship, the quality work I'm doing, and just making things look beautiful, leave a mark behind, especially after having my kid. My kid was a big part, and now I want him. Now my main goal is to leave something back for him to look back on and maybe show his kids, something that he can be proud of.
He's like 3, right? Is that what I saw? Yeah, I saw that he just turned 3. We have a 6-year, where she's about to be 6. And she's kind of getting into being around cars and looking at us work on cars and stuff. And this past Christmas, we bought her a little like old school remote car, and she's like, I want to be in the big car. I want my own car. And it's just cute to see.
Already starting.
It's already starting. The minute that she saw the Buick come home, she's like, we have a new boat car. And I'm like, yes, we do.
That's awesome. Kids are amazing.
But she'll go around school. She's like, we're in a car club. Yeah, we're cool. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, it's already starting. But it's just so fun.
Though.
It's so fun to see kids get excited about that kind of stuff. So like, that's something that we're already looking into. Is like, okay, well, what's going to be her first car? What are we going to get to work on with her? Like, she
and you know what? You never know. She could be one of the next great builders. You don't know. I mean, you could be feeding whatever she's into. Feed it. Feed it. Like with my kid, whatever he gets into, even if it's something that I'm not super into, I'm going to keep feeding it because I want him to, be the greatest that he can be. With no restrictions. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly. And then we've already told her that when she grows up, she has to take care of mom and dad. That's
your retirement plan, huh?
Yeah, that's our retirement plan. Cause I don't know how long this mechanic thing is going to work for me, but that I've got the one in the bag. Maybe another one at some point.
Right. Well, we've thought about it, but I don't know. It's hard. Working long hours, and then I'm home. I try to spend as much time with my wife and kid, and it's hard to have free time. Especially with being I'm so busy. And I really do cherish the time I get with them.
Now, one of the things that we've talked about with several of our friends that all own businesses or shops of any sort, are you able to make it out to any of the big car shows or events, or do you spend a lot more time in the shop?
So I would say for about 15 years or so, I went real hard on the shows. I went to everything, every little show, big show. I went to absolutely everything. KKOA, Texas, I was all over the place, trying to build my name, trying to, build relationships.
Of course.
And also, I mean, meeting a lot of great people, man. There's so many amazing people out there that are in this culture, and I wouldn't have met them or been friends with them if I didn't get out there and do that stuff, But a lot of it was, trying to get my name out. I sponsored as much as I could. I was on all the forums. I did everything and anything I could. I said yes to everything,
Yep.
And along the lines of, I had to produce the work too. My work back then isn't as good as it is today, but at the time it was the best I could do. And then, and I really believed in myself, and I kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing. And, here I am still pushing, I don't know if I'll ever meet the standard that I really want to be, but that's all right though, because, it keeps me focused on a next level goal, but I'd say the last 6 or 7 years, my shop just got extremely, extremely busy, and I really don't have time to go out and to the shows and stuff. I mean, I'm sure I could find the time, but the time that I do have now, I really want to spend with my wife and kid. I didn't have a dad growing up and stuff, so I want to be the dad that I didn't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. No, and as we do get older and priorities change, and you realize that you've got a lot of things going on, and you don't have all the time, because we all only have 24 hours in the day, and we don't even really get that.
No, I wish there
used
was
to get
more,
that
to be
in my
honest with you.
20s. In my 20s, I could make 24 hours work, but not in my 30s.
Man, I used to
can't
work.
do that.
Dude, I used to work crazy hours. I'd work from 9 in the morning to 4 in the morning, sleep at the shop, and do that. I would do that for years. And then Friday, I'd hop in my car, drive down to LA, go to some shows, and then come back. You know, I did it for a very, very long time, you know?
Yeah. And it was fun. I mean,
It was hell yeah, it was fun, dude. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. I would love to do it again today, but I know it's a little more difficult now.
Of course. What was your first car? Like your first car driving?
My very first car that I could drive legally?
Sure, we'll go with that.
It was a 67 Impala Super Sport.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was a lowrider. First thing I did was I took all the fucking springs out of it and drove it around like that. True story.
My buddy Jacob just sold a 67 Impala.
Yeah, those are bad, man. I really like those cars. I was 17 years old. And, you know, there was this white car that I would see, and I just fell in love with it. I didn't even know it was an Impala at the time. And I, you know, went to go knock on the guy's door, and he wanted $2,500, and that was a lot of money for me back then. And I took it upon. I was doing side jobs, brakes, and you know, I had clientele at the time. You know, I was cutting people's grass, or washing their car, or doing brakes, or oil changes, whatever I could do to come up with the money. You know. Yeah. And eventually, I got it. You know, and pretended like I knew what the hell I was doing. I'd bang shit around under the hood, thought I did something. That's probably the only time I went to the fucking library was to go get a children's book. You know? Yeah, I mean, that eventually snowballed into other stuff. You know, I eventually got another got turned into doing my first set of hydraulics. And that made a complete mess. You know, the city was after me for that because got oil all over the street. And,
oh, man. Our Buick likes to do that.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. But man, hydraulics are something else. You got the batteries, and then the oil just doesn't stop, man. But I learned how to fix it, you know. So it was all these things that progressed over time, you know. And I couldn't afford to pay anybody to do this stuff for me, so I had to do it myself, you know.
But that's all the fun of it. That's the fun of making a mess, because I did the same shit to our driveway. Whoever moves into our house, I'm so sorry. I ruined this fucking driveway.
Let me tell you, the city knew me very well back then. And no matter where I moved, they knew where I was.
Damn bureaucracy.
That's all right, though. It builds character, you know. But you know, it comes back to that rebel thing again with the skateboarding and not giving a fuck, dude. You know, I really just didn't give a shit, dude.
Oh yeah.
You know, I had goals that I was focused on, and nothing was going to get in the way. You know, and I'm still that way today.
What have you got on your plate right now? I know how busy you are, but what have you got planned coming up, and you know, things that are coming out? You have any cars that you're excited about getting out of the shop? I know all of them, but of course.
Yeah, they would all look great if they left, huh? I got that. I got my 37 Zephyr that we're almost done with. It just left my buddy's shop in Oroville, Flathead's Garage. He rebuilt my transmission, repainted the motors, dialed the flathead in, redid the wire. We did the cloth wrap wiring it so it looks factory.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, man, I really love that style, you know, and I really wanted it all to kind of look correct, you know what I mean? That car means a lot to me. Like, that's a very important car for me. It's been a long time dream car. I named my kid after that car. So, you know what?
So did Chris.
Yeah,
Chris Bluntsy,
yeah.
His son's name is Zephyr.
Yeah. What a great name, right?
Right? Absolutely. I think that name's going to come back. Like,
and Chris is a great guy. I mean, fucking think about it. You know, great minds think alike.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, Chris has got a Zephyr too, you know, that he was working on stuff. I'm not sure where he's at with it, but he's got a 4041 that he's working on.
Yeah. He got it back to his shop of just a couple years ago, and I haven't been down to the shop in a while. See, I met Chris because I was doing a podcast, you know, several years ago, and he was one of our sponsors. So I would go down to Victoria, Texas all the time, and it was like a couple-hour drive. But I'd be down there hanging out in his shop all the time, and he had a shop full of cars that he owned and had worked on at some point and ended up owning. And
yeah, they bought one of the cars that I did for a guy a long time ago. They came up from Texas and bought it. It was a 52 Chevy. I must have chopped this thing 12 years ago, maybe longer, you know.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if they ever finished it or not. The last time I talked to him about it, he said that it was still sitting in the car trailer that they picked it up in. Who knows?
But isn't that the case with a lot of folks? I mean, you run your own business. People will come to you and be like, I want to do this, and this, and then life happens or something happens, and all of a sudden, like, well, I can't pay you this month, and then the car goes to the back of the shop waiting for the next payment. And
it happens. You know, this stuff unfortunately can get expensive, you know, and I mean, we're all striving to have that badass car that we dream of, you know, and sometimes our dreams are bigger than our paychecks, you know, and it just takes a little longer.
Oh, 100%.
But at the end of the day, though, man, as long as the car gets done or your dream gets fulfilled, that's all that matters. It can take 10 years. It can take 15 years, you know.
Absolutely.
As long as you seek it out, you know. For me, I've really gotten into, like, the more streamlined Art Deco stuff. Like, you know, it's probably because I'm getting older, too, you know. I just really like elegant stuff. You know, I like making things look beautiful. I like the craftsmanship behind stuff these days, you know. And my 37 is absolutely, you know, gorgeous. It gives me goosebumps and chills every time I look at it. But, you know, nobody knows this, and not even my wife. I'm going to probably get shit for this right now. But I am currently building myself another car, and nobody knows about it.
Oh, nice.
And I just spilled the beans. I'm probably going to be sleeping outside now. But yeah, I'm in the process. I'm keeping it on the DL.
Surprise.
You know, this car, I really want to push myself, my metal skills. You know, I got all these amazing tools, and I really want to utilize them and push myself. You know, I don't want to stay stagnant. You know, I want to keep progressing, and I think this car and where I'm going with it, I think that's going to do it for me, you know. And at the end of the day, it's strictly for myself. It's not for car shows, it's not for magazines, it's not for awards. I don't care if it goes to a car show. I'm building it for myself, you know, like. And I think that's the difference now. Is before I was building it for shows, before I was building it to, you know, make an impression, but this car, I'm making an impression for myself, you know.
Man, that is cool, man. I'm excited to hear about that when you actually do roll it out.
Yeah, I mean, I've been posting nitbits of it here and there, but, you know, again, you know, it's a personal build, you know, so we'll see how much of it I share. I'm sure I'll end up sharing it. You know, we'll see how it goes. But I just started cutting the roof off today. Now that I know that you're into
skateboarding, I mean, we're going to become best friends. Just letting you know this.
Nice. Right on. Yeah, I wish I could do it, man, but it's just, you know, I can't afford to get hurt. You know, I got too much riding on me. We got a huge waiting list. I just can't. I can't get hurt. You know.
I know what you mean, man. I just got promoted at work after I've been like working for it for the last several years, and now that I'm doing like 8 more things at work, I'm doing about 60 hours a week there.
Plus, you have me down your throat saying you can't get hurt. We can't afford this.
Well, I mean, look, that's fucking reality, though. You know,
absolutely.
If I hurt my hands, I'm screwed, you know, because my hands is what makes, you know, that's what puts food on the table and all that, you know. And to be quite honest with you, you know, I love skateboarding. It was a big part of my life, but, you know, my business, my cars and all, it's just more important to me, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I totally get that.
You know, I lived out that life. I lived the skateboarding. I had some amazing times going to all the competitions and stuff and meeting pros, and it was an amazing part of my life. But, you know, I'm living the second part of my life, and I'm seeking that out to be amazing as well. You know, I've had a lot of opportunities to meet a lot of famous people in the car industry, and it's rad. You know, it's a trip to sit here and think like that I'm just some dude, with a dream that's like made an impression and people want to know what I'm doing. It's really weird.
Oh,
you know?
it's been a huge impression, but it really has.
But to like me, I'm not anybody special. I'm just some dude just living a dream. You know what I mean? Like I'm just seeking out my dreams. It's a trip. You know, it's a trip. But you know,
But
yeah,
you're that dude that actually followed his dream. A lot of people don't do that.
Right,
yeah, it gets
right.
left at that. You know, they had a dream. You know, then they woke up and went to work, and you know,
Right,
you actually
right.
was like, "No, I'm doing this." I think that's freaking awesome, dude. For real.
Yeah. Well, it's either that or I have to deal with that fucking fire inside of me that I can't put out. So it's either deal with that shit or get off my ass and do something about it. You know. So
Exactly. Is there anybody that you would like to give some shout outs to? Anybody that's been super inspirational in everything that you're doing right
His
now?
wife.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I like how you just ram that one right in there. Huh? You got to get that covered.
Make sure you don't get in trouble today.
Well, fuck, I'm already going to be sleeping outside when my wife
That's
hears
why I'm
this.
throwing it in there now.
I appreciate that. Yeah, my wife has been a huge foundation for me. You know, she deals with a lot of my bullshit, a lot of my stress, a lot of my crazy ideas, but she doesn't hold me back. She, you know, as much as I'm saying I'm probably going to be sleeping outside, she's probably not going to do that. To be honest, she gets it. You know, she knows that I'm a car guy. She married a car guy, but you know, she's been very supportive. She actually came from the car industry. We met years ago. I was separated from my ex-wife and whatnot, and we became best friends, you know, and I was dating someone, she was dating someone, and we would all hang out, and you know, she was doing pinup modeling and all that stuff, and she's actually been in a couple of magazines that we were in together. It's a trip how everything worked out, you know, but yeah, she's been a big foundation for me through all this stuff and my crazy antics and all that. I've also have another guy named Mark Stewart. He's an older gentleman. He's a coach builder. He's in his late 70s. I met him here when I moved to my shop here 10 years ago. His shop was across the way, and he was a metal shaper. And we didn't really get to talking too much for the first year or so, but eventually we got to talking and come to find out that, you know, he was a coach builder, and he was building Bugattis and Delages and Bentleys and Ferraris all from scratch, you know.
Wow.
And man, and let me tell you, to be able to have that kind of person or someone with that amount of knowledge across the way from you, dude, I mean, how did I get so lucky, you know? Like, and I'll tell you the main reason why I moved my shop from the peninsula over here is because the landlord at my other shop did not want me to have my dog there.
Really?
I am an extremely loyal person, like extremely, extremely loyal. When I bought my dog, I didn't buy him to sit in a kennel. I didn't buy him to sit at home. He was going to be by my side every day, everywhere I went. When they told me I couldn't do that, I packed up my bags and I moved my shop where I could have him. You know?
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing though, that situation may arose for me to meet this guy, right? Because this guy changed my life. From the day I met him, he started teaching me all this stuff, all the metal shaping, understanding how to do things. And he's still teaching me to this day. And I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for him. You know, I am, till the end of my life, I'm in debt with the amount of knowledge that he's given me over the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's so cool when folks like that come into your life, and then you taking the opportunity to learn from them as well, because a lot of people, he probably has met millions of people in and out of day to day, and you're one of the folks that actually said, man, this guy knows a heap of knowledge and I should be learning from this guy. And
I mean, he made me feel like I suck ass, dude. I'm like, what the fuck? Holy dude, the work the guy's doing is just so incredible. It's to this day, it's just like, God, how do you do that? So, and being around that and he's my mentor. We always strive to be as close to our mentors as possible.
Of course.
I am very, very far away from being as good as him, but those are my goals, you know. It's just like he just keeps coming out and doing badass shit, and it's like, God damn, dude, like, how are you doing that, man?
He's just sitting there watching you work, and he's like, "All right, my turn." Like, done.
God, it's just so incredible, you know. But it's someone that took, you know, he had the same ambitions in life, you know. He just went about things differently. I wish I would have gotten into metal shaping earlier in my life, but I just didn't really know about it. You know, I was kind of still trying to figure out where I was going with everything and where life was taking me, you know. And I think that in life, things come your way. There's the way when they're supposed to at the time they're supposed to, you know. A lot of things in my life have happened that way, where certain situations may seem bad at the time, but at the end of the day, they have all amounted to amazing things, you know, and monumental times in my life where it's like, okay, wow, I thought that was going to suck, but fuck, man, this really worked out in my favor, you know, and it just keeps continuing on like that. So, you know, through my journey of all this stuff, I'm very open to, you know, situations and stuff, regardless if they seem bad at the time. Really, at the end of the day, there's a lot to be learned from a situation, and there's probably more light at the end of the tunnel that you just don't see yet, you know?
Absolutely, man. You have good times and you have learning situations. There's no bad times.
No, there's no bad times. Every time I fucked up, I've learned from it, you know, big or small. You know, I'm not going to sit here and paint a picture that I'm, you know, an angel, because I'm not. You know, I've messed up and I've made mistakes. I mean, we're only human, you know, but how you handle your mistakes and how you go about them forthcoming determines, you know, the future of where you're going, you know.
Exactly. Absolutely, man. Man, I appreciate you being on the show. I appreciate you, you know, calling or letting us give you a call this evening and being able to talk cars and skateboarding with you, man. Yeah,
no problem, man.
I appreciate the laughs.
You gotta have those, you know.
Those are my
Life's too short.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So we will let you get back to your normal life, and I'll let my listeners get back to theirs, and then hopefully Chuck likes this episode.
Right on, man. You guys, good talking to you guys. You have a good night.
All right, brother. And all things custom. Keep it cool.